Hello and welcome to GMT. I'm Philippa Thomas. The leader of the Palestinian militant group Hamas has called for a new uprising, an intifada, in response to President Trump's decision to recognise Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Ismail Haniyeh also called on the Palestinian Authority to give up the 1993 Oslo Agreement recognising Israel's existence. Let's show you the scene live in Bethlehem in the West Bank. Riot police standing by. You can see, I think, tear gas or maybe water cannon. We've seen both in the last hour or so with a crowd of protesters gathered there. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claims that more countries are poised to follow Mr. Trump's lead and move their embassies to Jerusalem. Well, let's start by showing you the Hamas leader speaking a little earlier.
Today, we call for and work for a new uprising against the Zionist occupation. Today, we won't have half solutions anymore. Today, there is no space or place for half measures. Let us unshackle our Palestinian people and let them express their rage and commitment to their historic right in Jerusalem and the whole of Palestine.
And as we said, the Israeli Prime Minister has also been speaking about the US President's decision.
Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish state of Israel. If you weren't aware of that until yesterday, you are now, but we've been aware of it for 3,000 years. I think yesterday was a momentous day, an important one. Jerusalem has an extraordinary history, and over the millennia, you can actually cite a few significant milestones. Yesterday's statement by President Trump, I think, is such a milestone.
We can speak now to Daniel Seidman, who's an Israeli lawyer who specialises in the geopolitics of Jerusalem, and he joins us from there. What's your stance on the decision President Trump has made here?
I believe that this is not a routine event, and it's going to have a rather devastating effect. And naturally, most of the attention is focused on the potential outbreak of violence, but I don't think that that's the most far-reaching result of this decision. What we have seen is the United States engaging in an act of colossal self-marginalization. The United States has disqualified itself from being in a role of fair broker. Jerusalem's the quintessential permanent status agreement that is to be negotiated between Israelis and Palestinians, and the United States took sides. Walking in here, the headline in the local newspaper was, "Half of this city is in euphoria and half is in despair." That is not something that a fair broker can allow itself to do.
Daniel, do stay with us. I'm going to come back to you, but we're also going to bring in from Ramallah, BBC Arabic's Nida Ibrahim. Nida, tell us a little about what is happening where you are.
Oh, so as you can see behind me, there are a bit of clashes that are happening between the Palestinian protesters and the Israeli army. You can probably see the smoke screen that's created by some Palestinian protesters by burning some tires here on the ground. The Israeli army is responding mostly with tear gas bombs, and we're hearing that many Palestinians, maybe around 10, have been taken to hospital for injuries related to tear gas mostly. This is not the only location where we are seeing protesters. Many protesters are also gathering in Bethlehem, in Hebron, in Jericho, and many other West Bank cities in which also clashes have occurred between the Israeli army and the Palestinians. Now, these protesters have came all the way from downtown Ramallah, where there was a central demonstration that called for more support from the Arab countries. We've sensed a little bit of disappointment from the Palestinians, who say we expected a reaction, a bit of probably not necessarily from the Arab leaders, but from the Arab nations who have some sort of a relationship or a strong relationship to Jerusalem. So you could sense the disappointment here. But this is just to point out that around hundreds, maybe 400 to 500 people have gathered today in Ramallah.
Nita, is the word intifada being used?
We've asked some officials here on the ground, actually, about the response to what has been released from Gaza this morning about officials from Hamas saying that they're calling for an intifada. However, this did not seem to be the case Palestinian officials in the West Bank are advocating. We've seen more of people calling for popular resistance, but it remains to be seen whether there will be popular responses that are different from the official side. It's yet to be seen whether, for example, we'll see something like we've seen a few months or maybe a year ago, in which Palestinians were going and doing some lone wolf attacks. So we're gonna be watching really in the next few days, and tomorrow is also considered a day of rage. So we will see then if Palestinian protesters are actually going to be more than they are today, or if the situation is going to turn more violent.
Nida, thank you for getting us up to date there from Ramallah. We're going to go back now to Jerusalem, to Daniel Seidman, the Israeli attorney. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We just got the line through from Ramallah. I know that one of your points was that you think this decision by President Trump could be detrimental also for Israelis. How so?
Israel has to ask itself the question, what do we need? If you look out the window at the real Jerusalem, you will see that Jerusalem is more divided, more binational, more contested, and less sustainable than ever before. And that is not going to change by recognition or by an embassy. What Israel really needs is the effective services of a fair broker, pragmatically and soberly helping us arrive at a permanent status agreement in Jerusalem. The entire world is opposing Trump's move, and the only way that Israel will achieve what we so richly deserve, and that is recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and I aspire to that, that will take place the day after Israel opens its embassy in Palestinian East Jerusalem, the capital of a Palestinian state, and the Palestinians will open their embassy in our Jerusalem. It will happen then and not one moment before. So what has happened now is much to the detriment of the genuine Israeli interest, because at the moment there is no horizon, there's no hope, there's no political mechanism in which we can keep this conflict under control and move towards resolving it in a permanent status agreement.
And yet you would accept, I'm sure, that there are Israelis celebrating, jubilant, that at last a US president has lived up to his word.
I am clearly a small minority in Israel. The majority of Israelis are celebrating. I can empathize with that. I think that recognition is important. I think that the Jewish attachment to the city is important, but that can only be achieved in the framework of an agreement between ourselves and the Palestinians. We must legitimize each other. And over the last 24 hours, since President Trump's speech, Jerusalem has been more contested in the international arena than ever before. This step is counterproductive to the Jewish and Israeli interest.
If you don't think you can look to Donald Trump as an honest broker, where can you look?
What we're seeing is the emergence of nations that are keepers of the flame. There is no immediate replacement for American leadership, but there are those, including the UK, Germany, France, Canada, Switzerland, and others, who are holding the line and saying the facts matter. The norms of international law matters. Accountability matters. There is only one way forward. Occupation must end, and occupation ends in a border. And we're seeing that slowly emerge, but we are truly about to enter new, uncharted, and dangerous waters.
Daniel Seidman, thank you so much for joining us here on GMT. And before Daniel, you heard Nida Ibrahim from BBC Arabic. She was in Ramallah.